Hey, I see a couple of you jumping on there. Thanks guys. This is Tammy Clark. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes. I did put out a teaser that we were going live at 8. I have some really important information to share with you. So just hang with me for a few minutes if you would, just to allow people time to jump on. Thank you. Okay, I see that I have a group of you. I see I have some family members on there. Hey, how are you guys doing? We'll follow up with this afterwards, but I have a group of people on now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And for those of you who might jump in late, you can always rewind. I am going to upload this video. I'm also going to upload this video to my YouTube channel. So for those of you who have not followed me before on the Tammy K. Clark page, I just want to explain briefly, this is my new official public figure page. So there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. And I started this new page because there's been a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of different things going on. As you all know, many of you have gotten the same alerts by Facebook that they're going to be getting even more restrictive. And so I actually got publicly verified through Facebook. And now that I have my own separate public figure page, I should be able to share with you more information. And then from here, I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel. So I would ask that you all please go, well, first of all, like and follow this page if you haven't, and share it. And then please go to my YouTube channel at Tammy K. Clark, because I need people to subscribe to that channel. I need to get 1,000 subscribers before I can start doing lives off of YouTube. And I'll be going to BitChute and that kind of thing too, because there's so much censorship today that we need to get on multiple platforms. And by the way, if for any reason, like what happened to Kristen Megan happens to me and I'm just poof gone one day, you guys can find me on locals.com. Okay, so just know that. It's very similar to Parler, and it has a very similar interface to Facebook, but it's totally uncensored. And so I do have an account at locals.com and you can find me there if I'm just gone. So no worries. Okay, so I have quite a group of you, and I want to get into some stuff this evening that is absolutely shocking and infuriating, and I need to expose this information because you all need to know what's going on and why some of the things you've been told are happening. I have been given some insider information over the last couple of days about one of our major health systems. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to name names and I'm going to throw people under the bus because what they're doing is totally illegal. So Spectrum Health System in Michigan, I have a bone to pick with you guys tonight, and I'm going to blow the lid off of what you guys are doing. There is a reason that you guys are being denied medical exemptions for wearing a diaper. I'm not even going to say the word because that's a #1 flag and trigger. But there's a reason that you guys are being denied. There's a reason that you're being told you can't get a medical exemption, even when you have very serious, legitimate underlying health issues and you can't wear one and you need to get an exemption. You're being denied by your doctor for a reason. And I'm going to get into that tonight because I have the letter from the health system and what they're doing and what they're telling their doctors to do, while at the same time the language in the executive orders in the state of Michigan allows people that have medical exemptions to be exempted from the diaper order, right? So I'm going to get into that, and then there's another issue I want to get into as well with the IRS, and I was made aware of this as well today by a colleague that I used to work with who works within the government system. I'm pretty connected with a lot of people on the inside within government systems and structures because I work with regulatory agencies and things like that. So I do hear a lot. I get a lot of insider information. I get a lot of information before it actually hits. And this one absolutely infuriated me today. So based on what I heard yesterday, along with what I found out today, I thought, we're doing alive. And I'm going to blow the lid off of it, and I'm going to expose the government and the health systems for what they're doing, because you all need to know. And I'm telling you guys, it's going to take lawsuits and challenges in the courts to stop this. And part of what I'm doing, and you all know me by now who've been following me, part of what I'm doing is I am encouraging you. My goal is to encourage you and to give you hope. It ain't over. As long as there's breath in me and as long as there's breath in you, it is not over. There is always hope. So let's get into some of the details, and then I'm going to go through, I want to give you some encouragement, because this is pretty bleak. This is pretty stark and dark, and I want to leave you with hope and with some encouragement, because the Bible clearly says we are to fear not. It may be raging all around us, but we are not to live in fear. We know what's going on, but the kingdom of God that is internal is peace and hope and courage and strength, okay? So first things first, what did I find out yesterday? I had somebody, and I'm looking away here because tonight I have my computer set up kind of off to the side because I need to reference a few things, okay? So pardon me if I'm looking away. I'm trying to pull things up so that I can read some things to you. I was sent something yesterday by somebody who was denied the diaper waiver, medical waiver, by their doctor. Okay, so here's what Spectrum Health System is telling all of their doctors. And I know darn well that this is being directed by our governor. And I'm going to get into the live that she did, and I'm going to just dissect that a little bit today. And her own personal narrative that completely defies the CDC, completely ignores what the CDC is saying. She's changing her narrative, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But our governor is putting so much fear into the health systems, into these large corporations. She is making them feel threatened, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was going so far as to even make claims. And we're going to come out with something. Just stay patient, because we're going to come out with something else that she's doing that's very explosive, insider information of what she's doing. But for tonight, I'm just going to leave it at that. She is actually doing things that are very unscrupulous, and that word she's used actually against people like me. And she's actually doing the same things that she's accusing others of doing. So I'm just like, I'm pulling out all the stops, and I'm blowing the lid off of all of this and exposing it all. So here's what she is pressuring our health systems into doing. So the gentleman who was not able to wear the diaper because he had some very serious asthma type issues, and he drives a school bus. And so he was very concerned about that, about driving our kids around and their safety, and feeling suffocated, can't breathe, it triggers asthma. Well, the last thing you want is for your kid's school bus driver to be getting an asthma attack while they're driving, right? So he went to his doctor, who is affiliated with the Spectrum Health System, and this is what they told him. And this is what they were telling all the doctors. Now, I've been hearing this. I've been hearing people tell me, Tammy, I know that you've said we can get a medical exemption. I know that you've told us that there's language in the in the executive orders that allows you to be exempted for medical reasons if you have a medical condition. And there is a host of them. If you look on OSHA's website at 1910.134, that's the respirator standard, the PPE respirator standard, there is a long list. That's Appendix C, that number that I just gave you, 1910.134. That's Appendix C with a long list of health issues that would prevent you or require you to have a medical evaluation, because you can't just mask up, right? So they're supposed to be working with people who have COPD, asthma, claustrophobia, ADD, ADHD. If you're on the spectrum, the autistic spectrum, there are a lot of survivors of sexual abuse and attacks, and people with PTSD that triggers. I mean, there's just a wide variety of reasons that people cannot cover their face and their mouth and their nose safely for medical reasons. So the language in the executive orders allows people that are not medically able to tolerate a face mask to be exempted. And yet, what has our governor done? What are these health systems doing? Our governor has directly told these health systems and is pressuring them through fear. And the level of fear that she is promulgating on this state is unbelievable. It's intentional, and it completely flies now in the face of the CDC. And so let me just read to you what Spectrum Health told this gentleman who has asthma, documented asthma, and is concerned about driving a school bus in a face mask because that will, oops, I said it, that might get me triggered. That will trigger an asthmatic attack. Okay, hang on. Right from the doctors, right from Spectrum Health. While we certainly understand these concerns, we are not routinely providing mask exemption documentation for patients. Best current evidence shows that masking is effective at preventing viral spread. Not true. There is not one documented RCT, that means randomized controlled test, that's verified. There is not one that shows that any sort of mask, surgical mask, N95 mask, homemade face cloths, do anything to prevent the spread of infectious disease, especially this virion that is so tiny. It ranges in size from 0.125 microns to 0.3 microns. It is super tiny. It can even go through an actual fit tested, medically tested respirator of an N95. So this is not true. Let me just keep going. Best current evidence shows that masking is effective at preventing viral spread. Not. Protecting both the public and the mask wearer. Not. It is exceedingly rare for a person to have a medical condition so severe that wearing a mask is not recommended. Not true. There is a wide variety, guys. Go to 1910.134 on the OSHA.gov website. Look up that Appendix C, which gives guidance, medical guidance, on people that have any of these issues. There is a wide variety of issues and a long list of medical concerns that would trigger a medical evaluation and an exemption and a lot more testing. And you've heard my videos to this point on PPE, on medical testing, medical evaluation. We don't just cover somebody's mouth and nose and make them go to work. That's illegal. It's illegal to put somebody in PPE without first testing that PPE and then giving them a medical evaluation if they have any of these symptoms. So what the health systems and the doctors are actually saying is 100% not true. But they are saying it because they are afraid of our governor. They are afraid to lose their license. And so they are completely just discriminating against everybody who legally has an exemption for documented medical issues. And these doctors, this gentleman who went to his doctor for the exemption for asthma, that doctor has the documentation of asthma on his medical record. This doctor knows it. This doctor's afraid to lose his license because Gretchen Whitmer has weaponized her Attorney General, Dana Nessel, against anybody that dares to stand up against her and defy her. How dare you, my naughty children? I'll show you. So this is what's going on today. Let me keep reading. Those individuals, so it is exceedingly rare for a person to have a medical condition so severe that wearing a mask is not recommended. Totally not true. Those individuals must actually be considered disabled by their condition in order to meet the criteria for exemption. Again, totally not true. You don't have to be considered a disabled person to have a medical exemption for wearing a face mask. Disabled is a completely different category than having a medical condition that might prevent you from covering your mouth and nose. Yet this is what Spectrum Health is telling all of their patients. It's a flat out lie. Hang on, I'm not done. There's more. So those individuals must actually be considered disabled by their condition in order to meet the criteria for exemption. If a person feels unable to wear a mask, they should not be interacting with the public. Are you kidding me? So because I have a medical condition, I cannot now interact with the public? Why would you think that? Especially now that we know, the CDC information that we know, that 90% of people that test positive for the coronavirus are 100% asymptomatic. And we now know that people that are asymptomatic have such a low viral count in their bodies, that they're not spreading it. But I might happen to have asthma or COPD or PTSD from a survivor of, a sexual assault or something like that. But because of that, because I have that condition, I can't interact with the public. Where is this going? Hang on, again, not done. They should not be interacting with the public. Using things like remote work / learning, virtual technology, curbside pickup, and delivery services are all encouraged to achieve safe social distancing. If you would like help dealing with anxiety related to related to mask usage, if you would like help dealing with anxiety related to mask usage, get this, we can set up a referral to a behavioral health specialist. So now I need a behavioral specialist. And oh, by the way, if I have documentation that I've gone to see a behavioral specialist on my record, on my medical record, guess what I can't get? A CPL. This just gets better and better, doesn't it? Hang on. The behavioral health specialist their recommendations have included wearing masks at home to become more comfortable over time. So we want you to mask up even at home. Those people who have medical conditions that prevent them from wearing a mask, now the behavioral specialist is going to tell them that they need to start wearing a mask at home to get used to it. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say to this. Okay, hang on. It might make you more comfortable over time, trying different shapes / styles of masks, using relaxation techniques. Please let us know if we can arrange any help for you. And that's it. That's all you're getting from your doctor. So while the executive order does have an exemption that anybody that is not medically able to tolerate a face mask does not have to wear one, the doctors and the health systems, Spectrum Health, shame on you. That is illegal. That is a total violation of patient rights, of privacy rights, personal rights, personal privacy. HIPAA? Anybody ever heard of HIPAA? Shame on you. You're violating, if you are going to go along with the executive orders, which are totally illegal to begin with, if you are going to go along with the executive orders, well, then you at least have to follow them. Now you're completely violating that. How dare you? Because you're afraid of the governor? This is ridiculous. Where does this end? Stand up. All right. Now, if you are somebody who has a medical condition and you truly cannot wear a face diaper, I think it's very important for you to get legal counsel, because the executive orders specifically and clearly allow you to have an exemption that you do not need to wear one. There are so many reasons people can't truly cover their face and their mouth. I'm not even going to get into the health aspects for all of us, right? But now they're telling you, if you feel you can't wear one, then you have no business interacting with the public. Stay home. Oh my gosh. I just needed to expose that, because I know I have worked with Spectrum Health before. They have actually been a client of mine, and I've had very, very good relationships within the organization. And I know that this is coming from the governor, but I also know that those in leadership within this health system better get it together, because they're looking at a very serious lawsuit coming down the pike here. And what I'm recommending is that several of you get together and start a class action lawsuit. And I have very good constitutional attorneys that would love to take this one on. Direct message me for that, because that's what it's going to take to stop this craziness. This is illegal. This is disgusting. And let me tell you what else. Do you know that every single doctor has to take what's called the Hippocratic Oath? And that oath says they will protect and do no further harm. They will always help every patient that comes to them. They will not discriminate, and they will do no further harm. Do you know, by doing this, they are intentionally and willfully putting those patients of theirs that they know have documented medical conditions at further risk of harm, because they are forcing them to wear a face covering or face diaper that will exacerbate an underlying health condition. They know this. They are violating their Hippocratic Oath to their own patients out of fear of our governor, because our governor is such a tyrant that they're terrified. What are we doing? It's going to take a class action lawsuit against Spectrum Health to stop this. I'm just saying, this is where we're at today, guys. Okay, let me get into the next one I just heard about. This one just came at me today. And when I heard this, I mean, my blood was kind of already boiling about this one. But when this came to me today, I about lost it. And I thought, well, we're going live tonight because we're going to roast these two organizations. And I'm going to educate and inform you. And I'm going to provide constitutional attorney contacts for those of you who feel like your rights have been violated, you don't know what else to do, your doctor won't help you, your doctor's now putting you at greater harm, violating their Hippocratic Oath, violating the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, and all kinds of other laws and issues. It's going to take lawsuits, guys. That's just where we're at. And don't be afraid of that. I'm dealing with one myself. But guess what? I'm going to win, and they're going to have to pay my attorney fees. Oh, and we're going to get damages on top of it because we have the law on our side. So don't be afraid of this stuff. You got to fight the fights that are yours. If you're not willing to stand up and fight for your freedoms and your rights today, then trust me, you will not have any to fight for tomorrow. That's just where we're at. That's the cold, hard facts. So, yes, you can sue. I see a question there. Yes, you can sue. That's what I'm saying. You need to sue your doctor. You need to sue Spectrum Health for this. This is disgusting. This is illegal. It violates your rights. It puts you at greater risk of harm, which violates the Hippocratic Oath that all doctors take. It's unbelievable. Okay, so let me get into the next one. I have a colleague that I've worked with for a little while, and he now works for the IRS. And I received a document today that the IRS sent to all of their employees. And I'm going to read this to you. And then I'm going to dissect it a little bit to show you how incredibly illegal and egregious this is. All right. Not that the IRS has already proven that they're very discriminatory. Look what they did to the members of the Tea Party. They had them on their radar, and they were targeting them on purpose. That's already come out. So we already know that the IRS is a very unethical organization who has no problem with discrimination. But this is going to prove it even more. So let me read this article for you, okay? Special COVID-19 post instructions. This is a post instruction for those that are in a police or a security position. The requirement: all personnel, federal employees and visitors who enter IRS facilities must wear a facial covering. Facial coverings must be in accordance with CDC guidance and not contain exhalation valves or vents. That would be an N95 with an exhaust valve. All that does is allow you to exhale a little bit easier. I don't even know why they're putting that in here right now, because most people are not walking around with an N95 valve with an exhaust vent. That is truly for those like in construction trades and things like that, healthcare workers. So anyway, let me keep going. There is posted signage at the facility entry points requiring all individuals, federal employees, contractors, and visitors entering the facility to review the posted signage before being permitted full access to the facility. Now, specific instruction to the PSOs. PSOs are the protective security officers. And this was sent to all the IRS taxpayer action centers. I go there personally myself. I have one very close to my home, and I own a business. I deal with the IRS, right, just like everybody else. But my attorney usually directs me to go in person, get it stamped with a date, and get my copies and all that kind of stuff. So I visit mine, probably a couple times a year. And there are things that you can do in person at a taxpayer center, at one of these tax, that you cannot do online. And right now, the problem is a lot of these employees are still, not even in the centers. And if you do call one of the centers for assistance, nobody answers the phone. Nobody can get through to anybody because they're all, working from home, whatever. So it's very important to have access to these taxpayer centers right now. Okay, so this was sent to all these tax centers and all these protective security officers that are stationed outside of each one of these IRS offices. So PSO actions, here's their directives. Anyone who enters the facility without a facial covering, the PSO will direct the individual to the posted signage. PSOs will provide facial covering to personnel who do not have a covering in their possession or who has a covering with an exhaust valve or vent. The facial covering will be provided by the IRS. If a customer has a medical issue and or they cannot wear a facial covering, the PSO will refer the taxpayer to the signage, for alternative services and deny entry into the facility. This is where my radar's going off, guys, because it is totally illegal to deny a taxpayer entry into a federal building that is taxpayer funded because of a disability. Let that sink in. I'm going to read that again. That should sink in and hit you hard. See, you guys know from following me that I'm used to reading legalese, contract language, government regulatory agency language. I'm used to reading that stuff. This kind of thing jumps right off the page at me. Hang on, I'm gonna read that again. If the customer has a medical issue and or they cannot wear a facial covering, the PSO will refer the taxpayer to the signage for alternative services, which right now don't exist. You can't get alternative services right now. And deny entry into the facility. That's illegal, totally illegal. You can't get alternative services. If you've got to go in person to have something, you make an appointment at the Taxpayer Action Center, you make an appointment to go in and you've got to get your problem heard and resolved, you cannot do that over the phone or on the internet today. There's nobody there. And now they are going to deny you services. If you have a medical issue, it literally says, if the customer has a medical issue or they cannot wear a facial covering, you are to deny them entry. That's total discrimination. And I'm going to leave it there a minute and I'm going to switch the page. I'm not done with this. We're going to come back. But I want to read to you something from the Americans with Disabilities Act. What they just said, what they're doing, what the United States government is doing at the IRS offices, and I wouldn't be surprised if this went out to other government offices, they are 100% discriminating against people with disabilities. They are violating the Americans with Disability Act of 1960. Let me read some of it to you. The Americans with Disability Act of 1960 prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities, including employment, transportation, public accommodations, communications, and access to state and local government services. That's right off the page, right out of the ADA. What did the IRS just say? Let me flip back to it. The IRS just said, if you have a medical reason that you cannot enter the building, that the protective security officer is to deny you access and to direct you to alternative services, which don't exist. Think about this. My mind is blown. My mind is just blown over this. Let me keep going because this is gonna get better. Because if you're somebody like me who would say, are you kidding me? I made an appointment. I drove 3 hours to get here. This is the nearest tack for me. And now you're gonna tell me because I have a medical issue and I cannot wear a face mask that you're gonna deny me services? You're gonna deny my appointment? This is IRS we're talking about. You don't mess with the IRS. You don't get behind on your taxes. And there's no other way for me to resolve this. I'm not leaving here until I talk to somebody. That's a legitimate reason, right, to get upset. Because the Americans with Disability Act totally protects you and gives you the right to get upset about that. And now our own government and the IRS is violating that right. Let me keep going because if you dare to say that, if you dare to speak up, here's what's going to happen to you. Individuals who refuse to leave the facility will be detained by the PSO, the Protective Security Officer, and FPS will be contacted. FPS is the Federal Protective Service Officers who are allowed to come in and to arrest you. All right, so the Protective Security Officer, and I went through this with my friend and colleague who gave me this information. When he sent this to me, and he said, Tammy, let me just explain to you what detainment means. Detainment means you are put in handcuffs and you are not allowed to leave. And they take you over to the side in handcuffs, and there you sit and wait until the Federal Protective Security Officer gets there. You got to be kidding me. All because I stood up for myself and my rights and said, I have a disability. I cannot medically tolerate a face mask. Now you're going to be handcuffed. You're going to be detained. And that's important because that's what that word detained means to these people. They're trained. They know when they get this memo and they were told to detain you and contact federal protective security officers, exactly what that process means. There's a protocol. This is unbelievable. Yeah, I see that. I see that note there, Kelly. It is going the way of Australia. This is getting unreal. People are going to go to jail because they stand up for their rights, because their rights are being violated. And it's our own government doing it. Well, it's par for the course. This is what's been happening all along. Okay, so I'm going to just keep going, read the last couple notes here. The IRS personnel will be reported to their management if IRS personnel does not. PSOs will not answer any medical questions and will refer any questions to IRS personnel. IRS will provide facial coverings for all PSOs working at their locations. Facial covering must be worn at all times while on post and in common areas of the facility. That's the memo that the IRS just sent out to all their security posts. So this is crazy. And this is a total violation of your rights, a total violation of the law, of the Americans with Disability Act. And, they can't even ask you what your medical issue is. They don't even address that here. What they say is, if you stand up and say, I'm sorry, I can't wear one, and you refuse to leave because you might have just driven 2 hours, 3 hours to get there, and you have an appointment, and oh, by the way, your taxes are kind of a big deal, because if you get that wrong and you don't stay on top of that, you're in big trouble. And so you stand up and say, I can't leave. Next thing you know, you're going to be detained. And what does detainment mean? Handcuffed while you wait for the feds. This is getting real, guys. These are two very, very large, powerful systems within the state of Michigan. Spectrum Health and the IRS. And this is what's just come out in the last couple of days. Unbelievable. So I'm telling you, it's going to take class action lawsuits. It's going to take collaboration to stop this. And I just want to encourage you, don't be afraid to stop it. So here, to wrap this up, I just want to give you a couple of positives because I'm all about being positive, finding the hope and the life in every situation and encouraging you. While what's going on around us is absolutely crazy, we don't need to get upset. We don't need to get riled, and we don't need to mentally and internally get fearful, get stressed, get anxious. We don't need to go there. We're supposed to live internally, right? And the peace that passes all understanding will rule our hearts and minds. And I see what's going on. I address it. I call it out because I'm absolutely not afraid. But at the same time, I'm very, very attacked and criticized. And I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Because I read something today that Orwell said. And it was such a great quote that I'm going to be putting it on some of my email tags and things like that. Truth spoken in a time of deceit and deception is a revolutionary act. And the things that I have been sharing with you guys is truth. It is fact. And today it is considered revolutionary. People can't believe the things that I stand up and say. But I'm not afraid. And I'm for the most part, I'm not anxious and stressed. I see what's going on and I recognize it. But at the same time, I know that we were called for such a time as this. We were put on this earth for such a time as this. So you have to remember to keep yourself in peace. The Bible says encourage yourselves in the Lord, right? That means we can encourage ourselves in the Lord. And I said this from the stage in Grand Haven. If any of you were in Grand Haven at our Freedom Fest there, our protest for freedom, you heard me say this. But it is not, we are not to live in fear. The Bible says that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I have a sound mind because I recognize the facts. All this craziness that's going on around us, people have lost their flippin' minds. This is not a sound mind. When people are doing things like Gretchen Whitmer is doing. Today when she came out, I don't know if any of you saw her or not. It takes me a good glass of wine to get through her. I'm just saying. Because I just get this tightness in my stomach whenever she comes on and I'm staring in the face of evil and I can feel it. So I got to get a glass of wine to get through it. But everything she said today was a completely new narrative. We have abandoned the narrative of cases and deaths. First it was all about not overwhelming the hospitals. Then it was about flattening the curve. Then it was about cases and deaths. Now what did she come out with today? Testing, 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 testing. We just got to get tested. Everything's about testing. Why? What's the point of that? Do we run around and get flu tests? No. So what's the point other than to drive the numbers up so she can keep you all shut down and afraid? This is an election year. This is the biggest scandal to be purported on the United States ever in the world. So what I want to encourage you guys to do is to fight the fights that are yours. Stand up and be bold and courageous. Don't be afraid to speak the truth. Who cares if people attack you for it? The more people that speak it and say it, the more it's going to get those who are buying into this and drinking the Kool-Aid hearing it. We need to say it. We need to speak it. They need to hear it. And the more of us that stand up, it's like I said in Traverse City. When I was on stage in Traverse City, I said, and my video has been posted. Some of you may have seen it, but you can go back and watch it off of this page when we're done. I said, if we all stand up, she can't control us all. What's she going to do if we all stand up, right? So that's my point. I just want to encourage you guys to find the silver lining, find the positivity. Here's one that I'm just going to throw out at you to just leave you with some positivity. And as we end this night and all of this, homeschooling. I'm encouraging all of you that what's going on with the millions of kids that have been pulled from the schools, because there are millions around the state. I'm one of them. We're a homeschooling family this year. And while that's been really tough and it's been a struggle, here's the silver lining, and here's what I keep hearing the Lord saying to me. And it was verified today by a conversation that I had with somebody from a national organization. And we are actually looking into partnering with Hillsdale to come up with some really cool homeschooling materials from Hillsdale. That's who we're looking at partnering with. And she said exactly what I've been saying and sensing in my spirit, that we have a very unique opportunity right now to take back our educational system. It's like what God has done through all of this. He works good out of everything. We are millions of kids that are being pulled out of public schools right now. All of these parents have the opportunity to press the restart button, right? To just restart. And yeah, it's tough because we're the ones having to go through it. A generation from now, they'll look back and they'll see what we did with this opportunity. But we have the opportunity to take it back right now and to own it. And so I would just encourage you, if your kids are remote learning, if your kids are at home and learning, but they're still part of the public school system, end that relationship. There are way better alternatives for you. And don't let the school get to count them on count day. They shouldn't. The schools should feel it. And then we have the opportunity to restart. The NEA has ruined an entire generation with brainwashing. You look at all these little millennial snowflakes who are afraid of everything and they can't critically think about anything. They can't come to the right conclusions. Well, guess what? That's because the NEA has been in charge for so long that the school curriculum, first of all, they've not learned anything about history, not factual history, not real constitutional history. And second of all, they've removed the ability for them to critically think. And they've brainwashed them with terrible, terrible agendas. So now we have this whole generation. It's kind of sad. It's like the lost generation. But we have this opportunity to take it back. And while that's difficult, if you look at it from a big picture, right? He who sees the biggest picture wins and controls. If you look at everything that's going on from a big picture and see the opportunity that we have right now, it's a positive thing. So even though my son does not want to be homeschooled, and there were a lot of tears about football getting shut down and the injustice of it all, and I agree with him. None of that should be happening, especially at a Christian school, for crying out loud, right? But what we've chosen to do is say, okay, it is what it is. Just dig your heels in, grit your teeth, and refuse to let them win. And find the silver lining. Because here's what the Bible says. I set before you this day life and death. Choose life. Guys, there is life in every situation. Every situation. We just have to choose to see it and to find it and to win. So here's what my family's doing. We're homeschooling. Not ideal. I'm kind of a crazy busy woman. Don't have a lot of time for homeschooling. But we are going to figure it out and we are going to make it the coolest year yet that he has had in school. And we are going to travel. I was just asked to speak. I think some of you heard me say this the other night in Austin, Texas at the Constitutional Rights Summit with some of the frontline doctors, Dr. Simone Gold and Pastor Greg Locke, and some of these really awesome characters who are standing up and speaking truth boldly. And so I was invited to speak on this panel on October 3rd. So I already told my son, I know where our first homeschool trip's going to be. We are driving to Texas so that we can stop along the way and visit national parks and monuments and historical sites and just go get educated in a fun way. Because if he does go back to school next year, he wants to play football and to be with his friends, he's going to have the memories of this awesome year that we created, because it is all about your attitude. If you choose to give in to the depression and the anxiety and the fear, guess what? The devil has been successful in totally taking you out of the game. You can't sit in the corner and suck your thumb and expect to actually be effective in the kingdom of God for your family or for anything else. He's taking you out. So you got to dig your heels in and just say, not me, devil. Yeah, you may have thrown the wrench in the works, but guess what? God works good out of all things. And this is going to be even better. I've always told my kids this. You guys that are parents out there will laugh. I'm gonna end it on this. This is such a parent thing to say, but it's so true. Bob the Tomato says it best. God takes the good and the bad, and he makes something really great out of it all. And I've always told my kids that in every situation that we've had that was all like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Or very serious issues, because life is tough. We have a lot of problems in this world and in life, right? But at the same time, Bob the Tomato is right. If we have the right attitude and we choose to find life in every situation, God will bless everything we put our hands to do, because that's a promise. And if we choose to see it and we expect it, and we choose to find the good in the life in the situation, that situation that you thought was so terrible is going to turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to you, better than had it not happened to you. I can go on and on about the experiences in my life where that's true. So I just want to leave that. I just want to leave you guys on that note and encourage you. While yes, my goal was to expose Spectrum Health, blow the lid off that organization. I know they were one of my clients in the past, and I love the people there that I've worked with, but I don't care. What they're doing is so wrong. That was my goal, to expose it. My goal was to expose what's going on in the IRS and in our government. And I'm not afraid of them. Guess what? They audit me all the time. I'm already a target because of the work that I do within OSHA and stuff like that. So whatever. You know, I mean, I can't get any more scrutinized and attacked than I already am. So what do I care at this point? But I did that. I gave you guys some very serious information tonight because I feel like you need to know. But at the same time, I don't want that to scare you. I don't want that to steal your peace or your joy. You just need to know. The more you know, the better, right? So take the information for what it's worth. Do with it what you need to do with it. Have a blessed night. It's time for me to go get a glass of wine. It's been a very long day. I've had some great conversations, and things are looking up. And what we're doing behind the scenes, guys, for you, just stay tuned, because there's so much good going on. God is at work. He's in control, and he is at work. And the things that are coming are really great. So I will chat with you guys soon. Talk to you later. Have a good night.